Hello, hola, konnichiwa, guten tag, ni hao. Today we're going to go over some basics of English in the form of spelling and how they apply so that you can better be able to write out English and also be able to hear it and kind of visualize the words in your head so that when or if you have to read it or write it or anything like that, you can understand the parts that go into it, and hopefully you can better understand everything of the bigger picture, right? So, as I said previously, we are trying to give you the building blocks so that you can put everything together in its proper place yourself. So, spelling, there are two types of letter in the alphabet. There are vowels and there are consonants. Vowels are the letters A, E, I, O, and U. And every other letter in the alphabet is a consonant. Now, there are three types of consonant. Or, I should say, consonants are used in three ways. You either have a single consonant, which is just the single letter, B, D, F, etc., right? And etc. just means so on and so forth until you don't feel like writing it anymore. Blended or consonant blends, right? And in this case, you have the R makes a brr sound for like bread, or break, or breathe, right? So you have BR, you have DR for like drink, drive, drag, stuff like that. You have FR for like friend or frame, etc. And then once again we get an etc. And then finally the last consonant type would be the digraph. Now the digraph is two consonants put together to make one sound. In the case of the blended, you're mixing the sound together so that you can have a very brief. You're trying to make a specific sound out of two sounds. Whereas the digraph is just making one sound out of two letters. So the digraph would be like CH for in the front of a word is usually going to be a ch sound, so like chair, chase, cheer, stuff like that. But at the back of a word, it will often have like a k sound. So, these digraphs also depend on where in the word they're placed, whether or not they're going to make that specific sound, right? But CH is probably the most common one. TH is another one. So like the, that, there, this, so on, so forth. SH, shoe, shoot, shot, share. And once again, etc. So, this is one sound that it's trying to make. This is two sounds. That's the main difference, right? And obviously the consonants have one sound with the exception of a very few, right? So all consonants pretty much only have one sound that they make, with the exception of the letter C. And when it came to the T right there, we'll say T doesn't have one sound either. It's got kind of a blended sound. But C and T, depending on the situations that you write them, don't necessarily have the same sound every time. So C can sound like a k when you say like cut, or it can have like, so C can sound like a K or a sharp k sound when you spell it in the word cut. But if I say dice, well, the C's there and it sounds like an S. Dice, right? And T is really the only situation that you're going to have to worry about. T not sounding like a t sound is when it's followed by an H, typically. So T is going to always sound like t for like tattoo or tangle, right? But then you spell thief or thank you, thanks, thank you. Well, obviously that doesn't have the same sound anymore. So these two letters are good examples of consonants don't always make the same sound depending on circumstances. And C is the biggest example. The letter C, it's got, a ch sound when it's combined with an H. It's got a s sound when it's put in certain words. It's got a k sound when it's put in certain words. And in some words, it's also got kind of a k, like a phlegmy CH. But for now, that's the basics on vowels and consonants. Your two different types of letter. Or, in the case of blends and digraphs, multiple letters. Now, plurals are typically very simple. There's only a handful of words that don't work by just adding an S or an ES at the end. But for most words, if I just put an S or an ES at the end, depending on the circumstance, then plural will be that simple. So if I have a cat and a dog, all I need to do to make it plural is make it cats and dogs, right? If I have a horse, all I need to do to make it multiple horses is add an S, right? Pretty simple. The words that you add an ES, typically it'll be a vowel right before a consonant when it comes to that. Or a double consonant, sorry. Double consonant. I was wrong on that one. So, if I have class today, to make it multiple class, it's classes. Same with glass. Except glasses is not necessarily always the plural. Glasses is also a different word. But this can be multiple glasses or it can be glasses. Really depends on the circumstance. That's the other part about English that's kind of fun. You got to guess which words are plurals of something or which words are singulars of something else and crazy stuff like that. But yeah, so glasses and classes and anything that ends with like a CH, X. X is a big one. So if I have, let's say, one mix of candy or mix of hot chocolate or something like that, If I have them get two, now it's mixes, which is also an action. But once again, we'll get into that in a minute. So there are some examples of what I'm talking about when it comes to plurals, S or ES. There are a few words where the plural does not match, and it's mostly because of the root language that many words come from. If they already had a plural form that was different, they will just incorporate it into English if it was not. If it's more recent than the majority of the English language, they will usually just use it. So like how goose, well, it's not gooses. Right? It's not gooses. It's actually geese. Much the same as how plural of mouse doesn't transfer to mouses, it transfers to mice. So there are a few words that are like that, kind of tricky. You have to know specific examples of that. But outside of those few examples, S or ES at the end will be a good, fairly wide majority of the time is going to be S or ES, right? And obviously singular is the opposite of plurals. So any word that's just a single dog or cat or book or something like that, right, is just going to be, well, the singular. All right. Now, moving on to possessives. Possessive is, as the word possess means to have something or to have ownership over or to have in your grasp, something like that. Possess is showing ownership, right? And so in this case, possessives will be very easy to represent by an apostrophe S on the end of the word, or an apostrophe S on the end of someone's name, because it's also used on names. The only example of that is it's for the singulars anyway. For plurals, it's going to be S and apostrophe. Okay. Not sure if you guys can see that with the glare. Still working on the curtain rod issue. We'll be picking those up hopefully later tonight. But, yep. A possessive is apostrophe S when it's singular, with the exception of its. Because its with an apostrophe S is showing it is. It is a abbreviation of two words. So it's, when you say that is its hair, right? You're saying that the hair is owned by it, whatever it is. But because, like I said, it's with an apostrophe is a abbreviation between two words of it is, then you can't use that apostrophe S for the same thing in a different, or for the possessive in it. And in plurals, you'll have a S apostrophe. So, if it's the cat's toy, If it's one cat, then it's the cat's toy. But if all of them, if you have like 5 cats, let's say, and they all share that toy, then it's the cat's toy. Now, sometimes with the plural, especially in situations where the word that is being made plural maybe has the same form of the singular, or in the case where the word has an S at the end, sometimes you still make a apostrophe S. So in the case where you have a that belongs to the class, then it's the classes, right? Things like that. And sometimes you don't have to, for things that already end in S, some words are acceptable just to drop the S after the apostrophe, right? But most of the time you'll be safe if you just put apostrophe S if it's just a single thing. Whereas if it's multiple, like I said, it's S apostrophe. Okay? So possessives are pretty simple, right? Now we get into the more tricky business of syllables. Now, syllables are easy, but syllables are meant to break words up into parts that you can then spell by sounding them out, right? So, in the case of syllables, most typically when we write out like how we break up syllables, it's going to be you write all the letters and break them up like that, right? So syllables is broken up into 3, syllables. Syllable. And it's mostly like you count out how many times a single sound has been made, basically. So you have sound is a 5-letter word, but it's only 1 syllable, right? So sound, 1 syllable, but syllables is a 9-letter word, but it's made of 3 different syllables. It's because the sound changes in between the syllables, right? Pardon me, by the way. I have a little bit of allergies going on today, bothering me. So I hope you guys can forgive me for being a little more nasally than usual. But syllables break up the word into more easily digestible parts that you can then figure out how to spell by sounding them out, right? It's mostly to help you sound out bigger words that help that you might not know otherwise, or know how to spell, I should say, otherwise. But you need to break it up so that you can understand it better. So another word, well, let's break a few words up into syllables so that we can get some practical application of this. So let's say medicine, right? In this case, medicine. Every time the word changes, the sound, it will be a different syllable. So, medicine. Some of these words are easy because the boundary between the syllables is made pretty clear by a very clear-cut consonant like a D or an M or a B, something that has a very defined sound that you can hear every time, and you know that that's that sound every time. Some of them can be a little bit trickier, especially when they have like a double letter, so you don't really know if you should put that letter as the boundary between the syllables or if that letter should be considered, if you want to split the two letters up, or if you want to keep, both letters on one side of the syllable, right? But like I said, syllables are mostly for you to break big words up into smaller sections so that you can sound it out. And that's really what syllables are all about, is sounding it out. So, I will grant English is not the easiest language to sound out, because how many words you have that sound like other things. When you sound it out one way, you're wrong. So, like, in the case of tongue, right? Tongue is spelled this way. Not exactly what most people would think it's spelled like when you hear this sound. Tongue sounds like that, and yet you see that. Kind of mixed messaging, right? That's a lot of the English language's stuff. Most words you can sound out pretty okay, but there are a decent number of words that you're going to struggle with because they are spelled in ways that you honestly don't understand how on earth they came up with that spelling. All right? Now, prefixes and suffixes, right? A prefix is anything that goes on the beginning of a word without changing the root word, and a suffix is anything that goes on the end of the word without changing the root word. So, if I was to say for prefixes, right? Let's say order is going to be preceded by dis, right? That prefix all of a sudden changes it from, and it actually, in this case, makes it the opposite. So order, when you hear the word order, you're thinking like order as in organization, or, cleanliness, making things organized, clean, keeping things in set locations, stuff like that. There's, order is its own word that means something positive, right? Then you throw disorder on there, and all of a sudden, in this case especially, it becomes totally the opposite, right? This is used, that's really what these prefixes are usually used for. You're never going to see a prefix thrown onto a word that makes it mean the same thing. That's usually what you're going to have other words that we'll get into later called adjectives or adverbs, right? That's what you're going to use those for. You're not going to use a prefix to enhance a word's meaning, or make it, not enhance the word's meaning, but like making it the same meaning, just more, right? I want it to be more order. So I'm going to say, something, a prefix that means more onto the order. It's like that's not how that works usually. You're going to see it usually is going to be the prefix is something that's designed to contradict the current status that word means. So disorder, order would be the root word. I'm going to get a different colored marker here to show you. So we're going to put a big green circle thing here at the end of prefixes so that you know that the green letters are prefixes. Now, suffixes, the examples given in the book are kind of lackluster. They're more of a turning something from, one form into another. So I will say that a suffix that makes this that is going to change kind of what this is will be orderly, right? ly, because that changes that makes this word into a description rather than a noun, which once again we'll be getting into nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and the like next lesson. This lesson we're going to end it on, prefixes and suffixes, and then we'll get into some conversational stuff, right? So the book that I have says that suffixes would be like ing or something along those lines. So you'll have like order becomes ordering. So instead of it being a thing, now it's an action, right? So if I take the dis off there and leave ordering, now ordering is an action rather than it being a enhancement of the word. It's actually a changing of the word's purpose, right? And so that's what the suffix in this case is actually doing, changing the word's purpose, right? But the prefix is to change kind of the word's meaning or to oppose the word's meaning. So if I write understand, well, if I put a prefix of miss, then now that's actually the opposite. Because understand is do you get it? Does that make sense to you? Now misunderstand means that doesn't make sense. So understand, making sense. Misunderstand, making no sense or not making sense. So prefixes usually will change the word's meaning. Suffixes, in the case of what many textbooks and books will say, suffixes are going to change the word from a thing into an action, right? So prefixes and suffixes. And you can also have prefixes and suffixes to your name, right? Most commonly, you're going to see, so there are names too. So let's say Smith, right? Well, a prefix for Smith's name would be Mr. or Ms. or Mrs., right? And a suffix for his name can be many things. So you can have like ESQ is short for Esquire, which is kind of an old term now, not used in many situations other than like lawyers and such like that. Then you have PhD or MD, and you'll see a lot of these in like college settings or at doctor's offices, or like I said earlier with the example of one being for lawyers, right? Esquire. You'll see a lot of those. Another couple examples of some prefixes for names would be like sir. In the case of knighted people, they have the prefix sir. Um, you'll also have Lord, and these are old ones, right? These are ones that have fallen into antiquity, but they're still applicable in the sense of some people are still sirs, by the way. There are some people that are still knighted by the queen that, for whatever purpose, the queen really, or now the king of England, um, really saw their skills or something about them and thought that they were a very valuable addition to their country. So they knight them and give them the title of Sir, etc., etc. Lord is definitely an antiquity there, where it is mostly for like landowners who had some sort of sway over the government in their area in the olden days. But there are a few examples there, right? But yeah, prefixes and suffixes don't just apply to words, they also apply to names. The prefix is usually either a title or just a more formal way of addressing you. And the suffix is usually going to be a squire, kind of as a title, but as far as PhD and MD go, it's usually an acknowledgement of your status and skill and education. So, I think that will conclude the more formal part of the lesson. So, I think now it's time to work on the informal part of the lesson. So, today we're going to do kind of a listen and learn thing, listen and speak. I will also have the live streaming going up hopefully next week, to start with the fitness live stream and a study live stream. Pardon me, having some collar issues. So, listen and repeat. If you want to, I'm going to kind of just roll through these at a set speed so that you guys can get multiple examples to kind of practice hearing and practice setting up for yourself. That way we can get through a lot of material, but I might not necessarily pause between long enough for you to actually repeat it before I move on to the next word. So please, if you want to listen and repeat, please just pause the video after you hear the word that I say and repeat it. And then continue on. You can always rewind to the previous word or phrase, and then you can, work on that specific one. Just keep rewinding and playing it back, rewind, play it back, and we will hopefully be able to get you guys a little bit more comfortable with English and speaking English and hearing English, especially because hearing English is a lot different than what you might anticipate when you start, right? Especially if you start learning English from like reading more so than you learn by hearing or speaking, because obviously English looks a lot different on the page than it sounds when you're dealing with it. All right, so without any further ado, let's do some basic English. Listen and follow along, okay? Hello. How are you? I am fine, thank you. I am sitting in a chair. I was writing on the board. Now I am reading a book. Now, I am cleaning my eraser. This eraser is blue. This marker is green. This marker is red. This marker is black. This marker is blue. I am wearing glasses. My vest is gray. This is a dry erase board, also known as a whiteboard. This is a chalkboard, also known as a blackboard. I have worked at teaching you today. I am teaching you English. English is difficult. I hope I can make English easy. This is a book. It is a book called a thesaurus. This is a book too. This book is called a dictionary. I have allergies. Allergies make my nose run. Some people have food allergies. Food allergies are dangerous. To be dangerous is to be something to worry about. Some people are allergic to peanuts. When they are allergic to peanuts, they can get very sick when something with peanuts is there. Other people are allergic to shellfish. Shellfish allergies are dangerous. Some people are allergic to milk. Allergies to milk are usually called lactose intolerance. I do not have food allergies. I am allergic to pollen. Spring makes my nose stuffed. Many people call allergies to pollen hay fever. I like to play chess. Do you like to play chess? I am not very good at chess. I need my glasses to read. I have red hair. I have a very tall chair. I have very short hair. I have lots of erasers. I have lots of pens. A lot of pens. I have lots of books. This is a bookshelf. It is also called a bookcase. This is a picture book. This is a text book. This is a math book. This is a science book. This is an English book. This These are history books. This is a Japanese book. This is a comic book. I have lots of books. Now, I believe that will conclude today's listen and repeat. If that was a little too fast for you, please say so. I will slow down and do a more thorough recording for the next time. Please let me know if the quality of the sound is better or worse or the same with this versus the earpiece in. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week.